Greetings. Welcome to the Art of It All. I'm Jerry Hogan, and if by any chance you've been following along, this is an image that by now you're familiar with. Some decisions had to be made regarding the final version of the sailboat, since the crew was the focal point and the main subject for me. I tried a few different crops. If you saw that video, you saw what I did to experiment, and I chose this one, actually even a little closer than this, because having the heads at least this large gave me the room to be able to do a decent interpretation of them in a painting. And the heads are about the size, I'd say a little, maybe about the size, the diameter of a quarter, maybe just a shade bigger. So I've got something to work with. If you come over here, let's pan over here, you can see the drawing and some of the work that I started on the canvas. And what happened is that as I was going through the various steps to get this thing ready, I did a little bit of a painting up on the top, get some of the sky in so that I would have some groundwork in order to move forward to the other things that I wanted to talk about. So I got that done. It's still drying. It's still a little bit wet, but I have something here that I want to put up on the board here to show you, and we can talk about it. As you can see, we have a variety of different color swatches here, and I can bring this in a little bit better. You can see that there's a bunch of little swatches of color here. And as I was preparing this, one of the things that I started thinking about was the color system that I was going to use to paint this. And I decided, instead of going with my customary method of having 5 or 6 or 7 colors on my palette at a time, that or sometimes, usually maybe only 3, depends on how large an area I'm working on, I decided to try something. My reasoning is, if a printer, an inkjet printer, is able with 3 colors to reproduce almost any color that you need to do your color for photographs, a copy, or anything you want to copy, they use 3 colors for that: cyan, yellow, quinacridone magenta, and K. K stands for black, because in offset printing, the K represents the plate that's got the largest percentage of detail in it. And of course, since we're not using white paper, we need a white to create and control the values along with the black, so we have titanium white. And their pigment index numbers are phthalo blue is PB15, Hansa yellow is PY3, quinacridone magenta is PR122, and black that I'm using here, lamp black, is PB11, and of course good old titanium white is PW6. One of the interesting things about the characteristics of titanium white is this: these are very transparent colors, and they have good lasting capabilities. Their index is real good in terms of their reliability, but they're transparent. This is a very opaque color, so anytime you're mixing these with this, it creates a more opaque medium for you to work with, which means you have better covering. Now, there are times, however, that you want to have a thinner layer where you can use a medium, and you want the whatever's underneath to help reflect on the surface that you're working on, like when you're working on glazes. What I'm going to be trying to do here is using only these 3 colors: cyan, or phthalo blue, yellow, and magenta, with the black and white, is just those 3 colors, and create all the colors that I need for the painting that we're discussing here, which is that sailboat. And all these swatches of color here are experimentations of me seeking the values that I need and the colors that I need in order to reproduce this painting on this canvas. Now, when I use the word values, I'm speaking in terms with the Munsell color theory system. And what that means is that the value of any color is a measure of its tint, tone, or shade. And its tint is the lighter colors. Its tone are the middle values, which are gray colors that are added in, and shade, which is your darker values, where things like black and burnt umber and ultramarine blue come into play to use as a dark color to mix the colors that you want. We're switching it up here, and each of these little colors here, you'll notice, has a dot next to it. And each of those dots, like here we've got magenta, yellow, white, and black. That makes the skin color. Over here we've got blue and white. That makes the seafoam color. Over here on this mountain, this took a very long time for me. I was very concerned about being able to reproduce images that have the right tonal quality and at the same time looked like they were far away by arriving at exactly the right colors. And in order to do that, you have to control the intensity of the color. And the intensity of the color is very different than the value of the color. For example, when you want to control the intensity of color in the Munsell color system, what you have to do is add the color's complement back into the color that you're interested in. Say your primary color that you're using is blue. We got a lot of blue in this. Well, what would be the complement of blue on the Munsell color chart? Well, it's orange. That may answer the question why orange is in here. Because in mixing up an orange, I'm going to need an orange so that I can control the intensity of these colors. And all the intensity of a color is this. Any color that comes straight out of its tube may be said to be it's at its maximum impregnation of color. It's just full pigment, and when you squeeze it out of the tube, it's fully saturated as it can be. Some people can use paint directly from the tube. 90% of the time, however, if you're doing any representational work as an artist, you're going to have to desaturate that color, and you're going to do that by controlling its tint, tone, and shade, which are its value, and its intensity, which is controlled by adding the complement of the color in question that you're working with, by adding its complement back into it. For example, let's say that we're working with orange as the color that we happen to be working on, and that painting is going to have a few colors in it that almost look orange, some of those skin tones. Well, if you want to de-intensify the orange, you would add blue, little bits of blue at a time back into the orange to de-intensify it. That's what's up here. You see it's less intense. It's de-intensified. That's by adding a little bit of blue into it. Here, the color that we're working with is blue. So adding a couple of dots of orange into it de-intensifies the color. So any color that you have on your color chart, if you look directly across from it, your primaries or your secondary colors, you're going to see its complementary color. And all you have to remember is the values of tint, tone, and shade, and the color's intensity. And when you can control those four elements, if you can remember the values are tint, tone, and shade, and the intensity is controlled by complements, then you'll be able to control all of the elements of the painting. Now, here's something you might be interested in. All these experimentations that have been done here to create these colors. I've got the mountain group here. Like I said, this represents about an hour and a half of work of me experimenting with just those three colors to get these where I was really confident that when I start using these colors on that background and that image, I'm going to be seriously in the ballpark. It'll look like it needs to look. Over here, you see that these other colors that I have in here have also got the little dots next to them. And it didn't take quite as long to do these. I've got the green reflection on the hull of the boat here. I've got some blue on the front of the hull near the leg. Why am I doing that? Why am I making these specific colors for specific locations in the painting? As something that is not normally done, but we're arriving at a new stage of development for myself as an artist, and for you, by following along, you're going to learn along with me, and that's this. When I started studying the work of John Singer Sargent, I mean, I knew that what the direct and the indirect painting methods, I've known those for decades and decades. But when I looked up Sargent's work one day, John Singer Sargent, and saw some of his work, I was so surprised by what he was achieving with direct applications of paint and the direct method that I thought I'd like to learn how to do that. So I thought I can achieve two goals at the same time. I can see if I'm as smart as a printer by using only 3 colors to mix all the colors that I need for the painting. And the other challenge is, can I paint in the direct technique? And that means that instead of, for many years, the method that I used was to do an underpainting, and it might be a grisaille, or it might be just a simple underpainting, and then we start building the layers up. And there's lots of examples of that in my work. However, in the direct method, what you're doing is you're not doing an underpainting, you're not doing a preparatory a grisaille or anything like that at all. What you're doing is you're getting a drawing, and you're coming into the work with a color, and you're putting a dot of color someplace on that thing, like up here. You put the color in, get it the way you want it, and you're out of there, and you leave it alone. So that direct way is called imprimatura. It means at once, or doing it nearly at once. It's a single stroke or two, and you get the job done. So the direct method is what I'm going to be trying to achieve, and I don't know if I can do it or not, but I think I can. And so when you pick up a color, you have to know where you're going with that color and what you need at the time that you do it. And a lot of artists actually did full preparatory paintings called cartoons of the work in order to really have the color values seriously handled. Now, I've never really done that, maybe once or twice in my life. I would rather do color swatches, label them, and be done with it. So this gives you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be doing. I have some stuff coming, so I can mix up some of these colors that I'm going to need in here, larger quantities of them, and I'm going to save them. So thank you for joining me today on The Art of It All. I hope this has been informative, and we'll see you when we get ready to start the next section, which will be doing the background. My method is to work from the back to the front, this way, from the top to the bottom, and dark to light colors. And almost all my paintings are, no matter what the medium is, it's achieved that way. Back to front, top to bottom, dark to light colors. So we'll be looking forward to starting this next video very soon. Thanks for joining me today.